Hi, welcome to Jay's Retro Toys and Games. It's Monday, September 12th, 2022. You're up for another episode of this great series, and today we're talking about a toy. Wow, that's spanning a lot. You know, that backgammon game goes back as far as 5,000 years ago, but the toy we're talking about today is in proof of existence since 500 BC. That's right. Consisting of an axle connected to two discs and a string looped around the axle similar to a spool. It was also called a bandalore in the 17th century, as played by holding the free end of the string known as the handle by inserting one finger, usually the middle or ring finger, into a slip knot, allowing gravity or the force of a throw and gravity to spin this toy and unwind the string. Well, I think you probably get the idea. We're talking about the yo-yo. That's right. The yo-yo on this edition of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. We are here. Hope you had a very, very special Patriot weekend. We were not here. We took the time off to spend the time with our family and friends because it was a special time. It was a cyber time to remember September 11th. So all episodes over the weekend were canceled, and we are now back and ready to go as we look at our continuation of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. This is episode 24, and we're looking at the yo-yo. Here we go. The word yo probably comes from the Ilocano or Ilocano term yo-yo, or a cognate word from the Philippines. A Greek vase painting from 440 BC shows a boy playing with a yo-yo. Greek records from the period describe toys made out of wood, metal, or painted terracotta, fired clay. And the terracotta discs were used to ceremonially offer the toys of youth to certain gods when a child came of age. Discs of other materials were used for actual play. In 1928, Pedro Flores, a Filipino immigrant to the United States, opened the Yo-Yo Manufacturing Company in Santa Barbara, California. The business started with a dozen handmade toys, and by November of 1929, Flores was operating two additional factories in Los Angeles and Hollywood, which altogether employed 600 workers and produced 300,000 units daily. The principal distinction between the Filipino design, popularized by Flores, and more primitive yo-yos is in the way the yo-yo is strung. In older and some remaining inexpensive yo-yo designs, the string is tied to the axle using a knot, and with this technique, the yo-yo just goes back and forth. It returns easily, but it is impossible to make it sleep. In Flores's design, one continuous piece of string, double the desired length, is twisted around something to produce a loop at one end, which is fitted around the axle, also termed a looped slip string. This seemingly minor modification allows for a far greater variety and sophistication of motion thanks to increased stability and suspension of movement during free spin. Shortly thereafter, entrepreneur Donald F. Duncan recognized the potential of this new fad and purchased the Flores Yo-Yo Corporation and all its assets, including the Flores' name, which was transferred to the new company in 1932. The name yo-yo was registered in 1932 as a trademark by Sam Dubinier in Vancouver, Canada, and Harvey Lowe, who won the first World Yo-Yo Contest in London, England. In 1932, Swedish Kalmartisen yo-yos started to be manufactured as well. Now, in 1933, yo-yos were banned in Syria because many locals superstitiously blamed the use of them for a severe drought. In 1946, the Duncan Toys Company opened a yo-yo factory in Luck, Wisconsin. The Duncan yo-yo was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame at The Strong in Rochester, New York in 1999. Declining sales after the Second World War prompted Duncan to launch a comeback campaign for his trademarked yo-yo in 1962 with a series of television advertisements. In a trademark case in 1965, a federal court of appeal ruled in favor of the Royal Tops Company, determining that yo-yo had become a part of common speech and that Duncan no longer had exclusive rights to the term. As a result of the expenses incurred by this legal battle, as well as other financial pressures, the Duncan family sold the company name and associated trademarks in 1968 to Flambeau Inc., which had manufactured Duncan's plastic models since 1955. And as of 2020, Flambeau Plastics continued to run the company. As popularity spread through the 70s and 80s, there were a number of innovations in yo-yo technology, primarily regarding the connection between the string and the axle. In 1979, dentist and yo-yo celebrity Tom Kuhn planted the No Jive 3-in-1 yo-yo, creating the world's first take-apart yo-yo, which enabled yo-yo players to change the axle. Swedish bearing company SKF briefly manufactured novelty yo-yos with ball bearings in 1984, and then in 1990, Kuhn introduced the SB2 yo-yo that had an aluminum transaxle, making it the first successful ball bearing yo-yo. In all transaxle yo-yos, ball bearings significantly reduced friction when the yo-yo was spinning, enabling longer and more complex tricks. Subsequent yo-yo players used this ability to their advantage, creating new tricks that had not been possible with fixed axle designs. And there are many new types of ball bearings in the market which deviate from the original design and or material of the standard stainless steel ball bearing. For example, a certain type of bearing has an inward-facing curved surface to prevent the string from rubbing on the sides of the yo-yo, which would cause unwanted friction when performing intricate string tricks. Other manufacturers replicate this with a similar inwardly curved surface, but use minor modifications. Some high-end bearings use ceramic composites in the balls of the bearing to reduce internal friction, again making for a smoother spinning yo-yo. Precious materials such as ruby have also been used as a material in prototype ball bearings for its properties such as extreme hardness, and the material was first tested in a prototype bearing made by Wolf Yo-Yo Works in May of 2018. The era following the yo-yo boom of the late 1990s is often referred to as the modern era of yo-yo. The modern era of yo-yo is characterized by markedly more complicated and sophisticated yo-yo techniques than came before, in addition to a plethora of different yo-yo designs created to serve various niche purposes. This increased complexity of yo-yo play was allowed by the introduction of the ball bearing technology to yo-yos, which enabled yo-yos to spin for significantly longer amounts of time than was previously possible. This, in addition to the advent of the bind technique and unresponsive yo-yoing, equipped yo-yo players with an essentially limitless amount of freedom with which they were able to create myriad yo-yo tricks and techniques. In the wake of this revolution that took place in yo-yo, a landscape of yo-yo competitions tailored toward this modern style of yo-yo play emerged. See, for example, the World Yo-Yo Contest. Outside of the competition scene, yo-yo players regularly share videos of their yo-yo tricks on the internet, and a common place players do so is on Instagram using the hashtag #TrickCircle. Some yo-yo players have also found modest success outside the yo-yo community, going viral on TikTok, gaining significant YouTube followings, or being featured guests on television programs. Now, here are some techniques The sleeper is one of the most common yo-yo throws and is the basis for nearly all yo-yo throws other than looping. Keeping a yo-yo spinning while remaining at the end of its uncoiled string is known as sleeping. When the yo-yo is in the sleeping state at the end of the string, one can then execute tricks like walk the dog, around the world, and the more complex rock the baby. The essence of the throw is that one throws the yo-yo with a very pronounced wrist action so that when the yo-yo reaches the end of its string, it spins in place rather than rolling back up the string to the thrower's hand. Most modern yo-yos have a transaxle or ball bearing to assist this, but if it's a fixed axle yo-yo, the tension must be loose enough to allow this. The two main ways to do this are, 1, to allow the yo-yo to sit at the bottom of the string to unwind, or 2, perform lariat or UFO to loosen the tension. When one decides to end the sleeping state, one merely jerks the wrist and the yo-yo catches the string and rolls back up to the hand. Ball-bearing yo-yos with a butterfly shape, primarily used for string tricks, frequently have a low response or are completely unresponsive, requiring a bind for the yo-yo to return. In competition, mastery of sleeping is the basis for the 1A division. Inexpensive fixed axle yo-yos usually spin between 10 and 20 seconds, while the expensive ball-bearing yo-yos can spin about 1 to 4 minutes depending on the throw. And as of 2010, the world record sleep times were 3 hours, 51 minutes, and 54 minutes for fixed axle and 21, 15, 17 minutes for transaxle. In 2012, the transaxle yo-yo sleep time record was broken by the C0YS or the C3 yo-yo design BTH with a time of 30:28:30. Wow. Now, eventually, wider string gaps and silicone response systems led to the innovation of unresponsive yo-yoing, otherwise known as 1A. Traditional yo-yos responsive would return to the hand when one would tug on the string, but unresponsive yo-yos behave a little differently. And instead of returning to the hand when one tugs on the string, one has to perform a trick called a bind, where the string is doubled over inside the string gap to increase friction on the response system. This has brought about innovation of many different kinds of tricks involving leaving slack in the string, as this would have caused a responsive yo-yo to return to the hand. This style of yo-yoing is the most popular and the most common, and the most yo-yo tricks are done with 1A yo-yos. Looping is a yo-yo technique which emphasized keeping the body of two yo-yos, one in each hand, in constant motion, with or without sleeping. Yo-yos optimized for looping have weight concentrated in their centers so they may easily rotate about the string's axis without their mass contributing to resistance due to a gyroscopic effect. In yo-yo competitions, looping both to the inside and outside of the hand with the yo-yo plays a strong role in the Division 2A. Sometimes the yo-yos would wrap around arms, legs, or necks, also known as two hands looping freestyle. Two-handed or 3A style play involves doing string tricks with two flared bearing yo-yos, popularized and pioneered by Mark McBride. The first modern AAA trick appeared in Fiend magazine and was called the Velvet Rolls. The different mounts in this style are referred to as houses, example the King House. Photos from as early as the late 1950s show early yo-yo demonstrators performing very basic 3A tricks, such as a sleeper with one hand and a trapeze with the other. And while 3A as a concept has existed for many years, it was not until the debut of Velvet Rolls, coupled with the rise of unresponsive yo-yo play, that development began on what is currently considered AAA. This is the most complex style and is the most likely to obtain knots, dings, and clangs. In competition, two-handed string tricks have the 3A division. In the off-string technique, the yo-yo's string is not tied directly to the yo-yo's axle, and the yo-yo is usually launched into the air by performing a forward pass to be caught again on the string. However, some players can throw down off-string yo-yos and catch it on the string just as it leaves the end of the string by pivoting the string around a finger as it unwinds, so that the yo-yo is caught on the string. This is exactly the opposite of a forward pass, but with the same result. Yo-yos optimized for off-string tricks have flared designs, like the butterfly shape, which makes it easier to land on the string, and often have soft rubber rings on the edges, so minimum damage is inflicted on the yo-yo, the player, or anyone who happens to be standing nearby should a trick go wrong. And there are also tricks which involve the use of two off-string yo-yos at the same time, thrown with the same hand, and this is known as the solo ham. Yo-yo competitions have the 4A division for off-string tricks. In freehand tricks, the yo-yo's string is not tied to the player's hand, instead ending in a counterweight. The counterweight is then thrown from hand to hand and used as an additional element in the trick. Developed in 1999 by Steve Brown, and as of 2008, freehand is considered to be the fastest growing style of yo-yo play. Steve Brown was awarded a patent on his freehand yo-yo system, which was assigned to Flambeau Products, which is Duncan's parent company. Duncan patented the counterweight, and no one was able to design a unique weight. However, since March 28th of 2020, the patent has expired, and in yo-yo competitions, counterweight yo-yos are emphasized in the 5A division. When the yo-yo was first released, the gravity and the throw give it translational kinetic energy, and necessarily, since the string must unwind, much of this energy is converted into rotational kinetic energy, establishing the free movement of the yo-yo and causing it to spin rapidly. As the yo-yo unwinds downward, it also converts potential energy from gravity to both translational ag energy in its rotation to overcome gravity all the way back up to the hand. Because the sense of spinning does not change during the whole move, the string winds up in the opposite direction upon the return of the yo-yo. If the shaft of the yo-yo is connected to the string with a loop, there may not be enough frictional force to overcome the weight of the yo-yo, which is necessary to begin winding up the string. In this case, the yo-yo will continue to spin in the loop at the end of the string or sleep, just being slightly braked by the small dynamic friction instead of returning. However, if the string is jerked slightly up or the hand is lowered, the slack created in the string will allow it to begin winding around the shaft, thereby increasing friction and allowing it to catch as the static friction force rises above the gravitation force, holding the yo-yo at the bottom of the string, making the yo-yo wind up the string, returning to the hand. Patents have been issued to create more complicated mechanisms to allow tension control and an adjustable mechanism. But unfortunately, there is no sound historical evidence that yo-yos were ever used as weapons. The notion is believed to have been a marketing gimmick disseminated by Duncan yo-yo demonstrators in the early years of the company. Regardless, the notion that yo-yos can be used as weapons persists to this day in pop culture, as in the Chinese television series Blazing Teens and in the Japanese Guilty Gear franchise by the character Bridget, the animation of whose giant yo-yos movements were a considerable challenge to look natural. And there you have it, folks. The yo-yo, an interesting history that dates back to quite a long time. And next time on the program, we're going to look at another toy that has spanned the market very well in its time. I'm going to type it up and see if it's got a... Oh, yeah. This is one we all remember very well. It was made of metal and made of plastic. It was invented by Richard James, and it was a helical spring toy. It can perform a number of tricks, including traveling down a flight of steps, end over end, as it stretches and reforms itself with the aid of gravity and its own momentum. What am I talking about? Slinky will be the next toy coming up this Wednesday on episode 25 of Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason Icanio, thanking you once again for a great edition. We hope that you had a great time with us. We will see you on Wednesday. For now, have a great day. Remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Advertising Network for great more content like this one.